You're listening to Haunted Tales with Skoto the Reaper. Growing Skies by Hymnofshadows. Chapter 3: The Metal Comet.
After I set the bags up in the cabin, I walked over to the garage. Inside the garage was where they kept their gamble for hanging up deer, and I was quickly met with the smell and sight of one being skinned and gutted. The deer that was now hanging over a bucket was a massive 12-point buck, the biggest one I'd seen on this property. I could see the visible excitement on Jerry and Rob's faces. "Good job, man!" I went up and patted him on the back. "I know, right? This is the largest one I've shot." "Still doesn't beat my 13-point I got here as a kid," Rob quietly interrupted, but we ignored him. "Where'd you shoot it at?" "It was up in the shooting house." The shooting house was the name for one of the deer hunting fields on the property. It was a large green box that was by far the most comfortable place to hunt in on the land. There was another field outside of the barn, one that split into two, known as the Y field. One by the abandoned cabin near the gate, one by a set of bamboo woods, two others by a pond, and two other ones overlooking a crevice and a little stream that ran from the pond to the lake. The shooting house always had the best deer. "Nice," my favorite spot. "Yeah, too bad I can't show him off on Instagram or even take a picture with him." "Stand here, and I can draw y'all's portrait," I joked. He grinned a bit as he finished his cut of the deer's stomach, causing its intestines to drop into the bucket. "Dad would be proud of you," Rob added. "He would. How was Beavis and Butthead's adventure?" "The marina's closed, along with the anchor. We only saw 4 people the whole time we were out. One kid who looked around our age and Mrs. Kimberly. And these 2 kayakers who told us they have no service at all," I explained. "How's Mrs. Kimberly?" he asked. "She's all right, but I don't think she's handling what's going on very well." She went on rambling about revelations, the rapture, demons, and people vanishing. Jerry's eyes squinted at me before he continued to talk. "Revelation? It's singular, and the last book in the Bible. She thinks the world is ending?" Wasn't more specific than that. You gotta think her marina's just as isolated as this cabin on this lake. I like that other kid we met, though. He was just leaving the marina when we rolled up. Said he and his brother and his dad lived at that big gray house across from Good Island. You know that one, right? "Yep." "He invited us over for dinner tonight. Said they had plenty of food." "Did you get any food yourselves?" "Mrs. Kimberly gave us a little, and we took some alcohol from the bar." "You robbed her bar?" "Hey, I doubt anyone is going to be using it, and we didn't take that much." "Barely into the apocalypse and you're already looters. You didn't happen to grab any toilet paper there, did you? Because I worry about what happens when that runs out." Rob and I giggled a little, but he had a point. Running out of that did seem like it could lead to a serious cleanliness problem, as I wouldn't even imagine what I would wipe with. I've had to use leaves while hunting before, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. "No, but you have an entire thing of them in the pantry." "We should be good for a long time," I replied. We continued to cut away at the deer until we had all the edible meat laid out on a table. What was left was sitting in a large barrel under where it had been hanging, and the flies were already starting to collect. We had the meat covered with paper towels so they couldn't get to it. My hands and arms were covered in blood, since I didn't have any gloves to put on or anything to cover up with. I also reeked. Normally we weren't the ones stuck cleaning the deer. "What should we do with the remains?" "Normally that place on Jefferson Highway outside of town does all this for us." "I'm surprised you remember where to cut." Rob stared at his brother. "You know, I actually spend a lot of my spare time watching hunting videos instead of getting high and listening to Pink Floyd in my room," Jerry retorted. "You act like I should be ashamed of that. Why don't we just dump these in the woods?" "No, the smell will be too powerful. What if it brings unwanted attention to our cabin, like those rabid dogs again?" I interjected. "Lake then?" "It's fine by me. It's a nasty lake anyway." We both looked at Jerry to see if he would agree with this. "Fine, just not in front of our dock. Walk a little by the bank, towards Robertson's house." The Robertsons were their nearest neighbors. They still lived a good bit away. "You don't think they could be home by chance?" I asked. "No way. When I came back from fishing a few days ago, I drove slowly by their house, and I saw no cars. Their boats still had their covers over them also. Damn. Well, it'll probably take all three of us to carry these remains. Let's go ahead and put the meat inside first, I said. We need to eat as much of this as we can before it goes bad. It's already 3 o'clock and I'm starving. I'm gonna go ahead and grill some of the backstraps. We can worry about the remains after, Jerry replied as he walked over to the meat. You know we have salt that we got from Mrs. Kimberly's, Rob told him. How much? Not much, but how much do you need to preserve meat anyway? We all looked at each other, dumbfounded. I don't know. I never thought I would need to learn that information, I said. Surely you don't need to cover it all, Rob asked out loud. Dude, if you leave little bits exposed, they'll go bad. Well, what do you want to do? Go get more salt? Maybe Olivia knows. She should be a kitchen expert, I remarked. Let's just pour what we have now into one of the empty coolers. You and Rob go get the green one from my room and put the extra meat and salt in there. I'm going to go start up the grill. Jerry interrupted before walking off. We compiled and went to go fill up his cooler. The salt we had covered most of the remaining meat, but not all of it. We decided to keep the cooler in the pantry, where it would be less likely to be eaten by coyotes, strays, or raccoons, and if it was going to go bad, we would just throw it out. The venison Jerry did cook actually tasted pretty good, as there were quite a lot of seasonings here in the cabin. After a very late lunch, we struggled to get the deer guts down to the water and away from the cabin. Even Olivia helped us, and soon we were all being swarmed with more and more flies. Once we dumped it, Jerry and Rob jumped into the lake to clean themselves off, obviously away from the dumping site. Olivia and I opted for showers back at the cabin. The rest of the day went by quickly. Olivia was on board with going to meet Rick's family, and by the time we all got cleaned up, it was almost time to go. And once 6 approached, we hopped on the boat and headed over there. Olivia suggested bringing the dog, but we decided to just leave it locked in the cabin, and we fed it with some of the fat from the buck also. Going across the water felt weird now, as I had never seen the lake this empty. There had been more people up here before the storm, and I guess most of them had tried to return to their normal homes after it happened. The gray house Rick occupied was one of the largest on the lake. We'd always wondered who lived there, but never been sure. There was even a rumor that some criminal man in his 40s owned it, but these were always dispelled by Jerry and Rob's dad. We pulled up to the house and I saw Rick waiting on the front porch, smoking a cigarette. Another similar-looking kid was sitting next to him and smoking one too. Rob grabbed the rope and hopped towards the front of the boat to greet them. What's up, man? He handed Rick the rope, and he pulled us towards their dock. Jerry was on the motor, so I grabbed the one in the back and hopped off onto their dock. The dock itself was every bit as nice as the house. It was 2 stories. The bottom had 2 boats parked in it, a pontoon, and the nice Air Nautica we had seen at the marina. On the right side, opposite of where we were parked, were 2 nice jet skis. The downstairs also had a set of tables and a little counter, which I imagined was used as a bar. The upstairs had its own furniture too, several sunbathing-style chairs. I'm surprised. We didn't think y'all'd come, Rick replied as he tied us off. Once we both finished, the other stepped onto the dock. This is my older brother, Andrew. Rick looked back at the other guy who walked up to us with a smile. He looked similar to Rick but was bulkier and had a beard. Also, he was slightly taller, but he had the same blonde, shaggy hair. Nice to meet y'all. He shook each of our hands. His accent was just as thick as his brother's. I'm Jerry Murphy. Chris Baker. Rob Murphy. Olivia Macario. Stuck is way nicer than our piece of crap, Jerry mumbled as he looked around. Thanks. Y'all want a cigarette? Rick asked all of us. Hell yeah, Rob replied. Of course, I followed. No thanks, Jerry said, and Olivia shook her head. Rick handed us each a cigarette, and we lit it. Just don't smoke it inside. My dad's name is Oliver, but y'all can just call him Mr. Hill. Steaks are already on the grill, but we have a little bit of time, so we can hang out here, Rick told us. So have you been here since the storm? I asked. Yeah, we actually live here. Really? I feel like I see all those boats with the cover over them all the time, and no cars. Jerry looked at Rick. Well, we're often all gone during the day, and my dad likes to keep the boats covered all the time. It's a real pain in the ass to have to put those things on and off over and over again. I bet. But yeah, we saw the storm came in and watched the damn thing roll through and fuck shit up. Have you met anyone else on the lake yet? I asked eagerly. No, not really. We talked to a few people on their boats the first few days after. They all said they were leaving to go back home. We honestly didn't think much of it being that weird until we saw that damn moon. And no damn radio working either, but there's been other weird shit too. Just then a loud voice interrupted us, coming from the house. "Steaks are ready!" I looked up to see an older man standing in the doorway, looking down the hill towards us. Immediately I presumed it was their dad. "We're coming!" Rick screamed up back at him. We all put our cigarettes in a trash can, and then Rick motioned for us to follow him, and we all walked up to the dock and to the lake house. We followed a concrete path that cut through the hill. Each side of it was a neatly trimmed yard. I could tell this place had been kept up, unlike ours. Of course, our cabin was hardly visited, and there wasn't even a yard to begin with. The front of the house had 2 staircases going up each side and meeting each other at the front porch. The porch was much larger than ours and actually screened in. As we came into it, I was met with the smell of steaks and felt my mouth water. "It smells good in here," Olivia remarked. We then walked into the main room of the house, which was every bit as luxurious as I had expected. The floor was polished wood, and everything was clean and organized. The right side of it was a kitchen with nice marble tops, a large table, and way more ample room than ours. The left side contained their living room, which was filled with comfortable-looking chairs and a nice couch. They faced a wall that was lined with a large flat-screen TV, a fireplace, and a shelf full of books behind it all. Next to that was a sort of mini-looking game room, with a ping-pong table and an air hockey table. The walls were lined with mounts of ducks, deer, and turkeys. They even had a massive elk over the fireplace. "Why couldn't we be stuck in this cabin?" Rob whispered to me. "You must be friends Rick met at the marina." Mr. Hill approached us all and shook our hands as we introduced ourselves back. "These are strange times, so we're welcome to look for any friends we can. Please serve yourself. The steaks are over at the counter." He looked back over to the kitchen. We all walked over to where an assortment of food was laid out. Steak, mashed potatoes, fried okra, and mac and cheese. I noticed the lack of vegetables, and another thought briefly passed through my mind. What if this is a trap? Food poisoned? Or even worse, what if it's human meat? I had seen enough post-apocalyptic movies to know to be wary of other survivors when you came across them. I looked over to the others with a worried look on my face. "What's wrong with you?" Cherry shot me an equally confused look as he made his plate. Rob smiled as he took a bite out of his steak before he even got to the table. I shrugged and got in line between Livy to make my plate. Honestly, it had just been a flash of paranoia. I doubt society would crumble that badly and people would start murdering each other, especially if we were just at war with another nation. It was probably just over-traumatized for entertainment, like I thought the Purge movies were. Once Olivia finished filling up her plate, I began filling up mine. "There's beer in the fridge for y'all also," Mr. Hill said. "You sure? We don't really want to raid your beer. The dinner's enough," Jerry mumbled to him as they both sat down. Rob elbowed him in response. "No, please. We have plenty." Mr. Hill just smiled back. "Thank you, sir," Jerry spoke as Rob and he both walked over to their fridge. "Grab me one," I shouted over to them as I set my plate down and looked around. All the lights were on in the house. I didn't notice any power out. "Did y'all not get affected by the power outage?" I asked Mr. Hill.
Oh, no, we did, but I had a backup generator installed at this house years ago, because of all the storms that are always hitting this lake. I swear it sometimes feels like a magnet to them.
That's smart thinking. We have no power back at our cabin. We've been having to put our meat in a cooler and dump salt all over it.
Well, y'all are all welcome to store y'all's food here. We have 2 more fridges in the back laundry room, and the freezer in the one on the right still has a lot of space.
Leaving our food in the hands of complete strangers seemed a little risky, but it was true that we probably had no good way to conserve it.
"Thank you. We'll consider that."
Cherry nodded towards him. "Wait, so if y'all have power, are y'all's phones charged?" Olivia nervously asked aloud. I felt a moment of excitement rush up in me, thinking I would be able to check on my family.
"Yeah, but service hasn't come back up. Then I would just use them for games," Rick replied.
"Is it possible we could maybe charge our phones here still?" she asked. I agreed with her. If service came back on, it would be essential to have them, and spending some time on Temple Run or Jetpack Joyride would make all this go by quicker.
"Sure, just bring them over next time y'all come," Mr. Hill replied as he sipped his beer. "Have y'all considered smoking your meats?" Andrew asked. He was a lot more soft-spoken than his loud brother.
I wanted to get the elephant out of the room and address what was going on with the world right now, but I figured the small talk would come first anyway. Smoking? I asked, unsure of what he meant.
You know, like they talk about on those survival channels. I love those things. Like you keep your meat over a never-ending fire.
I had never thought of that idea. I looked over at Rob, Jerry, and Olivia. I've heard of that before, I think. I remember them talking about it in one of our history classes, Olivia said.
Of course, we wouldn't want to make y'all do that fucking much shit. Y'all can just keep it here and boat over whenever y'all want. And as a group, we're stronger together.
Rick loudly spoke up. I decided to be the first one to break the ice on the heavy subject. Stronger for what exactly? Do y'all even know what's going on out there? I asked him.
First, we had no clue of the blood moon out there and the storm interfering with all the electronics. The only thing we heard was a rumor from a guy in a kayak that Atlanta had been devastated by massive tornadoes. Once the military jets started flying over, we figured it had to be an attack from a foreign power of some kind, Mr. Hill said. Yeah, that was our leading theory, too. Maybe some kind of chemical that came with the storm is messing with everything. There was a pack of seemingly wild dogs that attacked our cabin the other night. Maybe the chemical's making animals act weird? I swear I saw a rabbit jump 15 feet the other day in the woods behind our place, Andrew said. Dumbass! Rabbits can jump that far normally. Rick laughed at him as he cracked open his second beer.
Rob got up to get more for himself, and I beckoned him to get me one also, as I had already finished mine.
Maybe a rabbit on meth, his brother retorted. I think it had to be China. It's the only country I think that'd be willing to actually attack us. I just don't see how they have that kind of technology, Mr. Hill continued.
Have you heard of a HARP before? Rob's eyes got wide as he looked around the room. Normally I wouldn't take him seriously on his theories, but ever since he had first mentioned this, I had been thinking more about it, and it honestly seemed like an intriguing theory.
No, I can't say we have. What is it?
Mr. Hill asked him. It's the station in Alaska that's used to monitor, like, the atmosphere, but I think it could be used to control the weather, and a lot of people think that too. I would pull up a YouTube video or something, but, you know.
I saw something like that about controlling the weather on the History Channel one time, Andrew interrupted. Look, I don't really trust our own government. Them creating a storm in their own country to shut everything down seems too much even for them, Mr. Hill said. Well, like you said, it's probably not our country. If we have the potential capabilities to do it, who's to say that China or Russia doesn't? Rob continued. Fucking Chinese fuckers treat their own people like dog shit. I hope I get to kill one of those plagues. Rick laughed. But one part of that doesn't make sense. The storm came from the East Coast. Why would they attack us from the East Coast? That means they'd have to move their fleet or whatever all the way around South America. And there's no way in hell we wouldn't have seen that coming, I interjected. Didn't Russia attack the Eastern Coast in Modern Warfare 2? Jerry asked. That's a video game, dumbass. It was dramatized. I snapped back, and he looked down. It could maybe be terrorists, but I don't see how they'd be able to reach the mainland still. I've been thinking that our own government is the most likely answer. I read one time about an experiment they did back in Alabama, where they gave an entire town syphilis or something like that. That could be why they're flying around. I mean, we haven't actually seen any fighting, have we? How could they get away with using at least an entire state for some sort of sick experiment? Rob questioned. We don't know for sure if it's the entire state. I mean, sure, the radio said that, but that could have been faked. For all we know, the storm could have only affected this lake. They could be posted up all around outside it, watching our every move. Could be a study on what happens if society breaks down. That seems drastic. They know people would wonder what happened with us. I don't know. The United States government's a powerful entity. Mr. Hill suddenly interjected. What if it's not our government? What if our government was taken over from the inside, and now they have free access to whatever secret weapons we made? Like Hydra with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Captain America, Jerry shouted. Again, that's just fiction, and that would probably be very difficult to pull off. Honestly, every theory we have just seems far-fetched,
I trailed off, standing up to get another beer for me and Rob.
Shit, you guys have already lost me.
Rick laughed loudly, as he also got another beer.
What if it's something more advanced, like aliens?
Rob asked aloud.
Aliens? That's fucking stupid.
Rick laughed again as he sat down.
No, it's stupid if you deny they exist. You can't say that we're the only planet with life. I mean, just go look up at the night sky. Billions of other stars out there, and you think we have the only one that could foster a planet with life? Have you seen how many pictures and stories there are of encounters in UFOs? I've even seen one myself at this very lake. Rob ranted, matching Rick's loud tone. Here we go again, Jerry scoffed.
Look, I've seen a UFO also. I think they're very real, but them attacking us seems a little far-fetched. I mean, we haven't seen any recently, I said.
Aliens,
Mr. Hill chuckled. The lady at the anchor, Mrs. Kimberly, said that the demons had come, that they were taking people at night. This could be what she was referring to.
Demons?
Olivia looked around nervously. Yeah, but she also said the rapture had happened and that the biblical end was coming. You said it yourself that she was talking crazy, I replied.
If the rapture has happened, I'm sure we would have gone with it. We're all good Christians in this family.
Mr. Hill smiled at his sons.
Hey, Rob, maybe it's zombies. Sounds a lot closer to demons. Jerry elbowed his brother.
Whatever, he pouted, and got up to put his empty plate up. I finished up my dinner and followed him over. What if it was just like a new type of storm? Like some powerful electronic storm that knocked a bunch of stuff out, and the government's just trying to fix everything? Olivia asked. I doubt it would take this long, I replied as I sat back down with my fourth beer.
I think it's pretty clear we were attacked. That's what we wanted to talk to you about. We have a couple of powerful rifles here, and I feel as if we could help. I'm sure a militia's already been formed, and we plan to leave here in a few days and head over to Statesboro. I'm sure we'll find out more information there,
Mr. Hill said as he put up his own plate in the sink. Unlike the rest of us drinking beer, he had a small glass of whiskey on ice. We had a friend of ours leave to go check on things, and he hasn't come back yet, even though he was supposed to. Leaving could be dangerous, Jerry said to him.
We know, that's why we're all armed. If you don't want to join us, I think it'd be cowardly, but it's y'all's choice.
Cowardly?
Nah, I'd be smart.
Rob sneered at him. Uh-oh, I thought as I saw a brief flash of anger behind Mr. Hill's eyes. Rob never sugarcoated his opinions, and I didn't really much either. This led to us having a habit of making some enemies back at college, but Rob had a tendency to be more aggressive about his, and this often led to us getting into bar fights, which I did not enjoy. Rob, on the other hand, always liked fighting, since we were little kids. People often made fun of him and Jerry back in high school, calling him a spoiled rich kid. This was usually met with a fist to the jaw from Rob. He and Jerry were below average height, but Rob had the strength advantage over most people. After a few fights and suspensions, people stopped messing with him. I, on the other hand, could usually talk my way out of a fight, and while I've pushed people or grappled with them if they attacked me first, I've never thrown a fist at someone's face in my life.
Seems pretty stupid to not want to protect the country you live in. Can't force you to help us, but your country would appreciate it. What about your own fathers and families? What are they doing?
Jerry spoke fast and loud before Rob could say anything else, which I was glad for as I didn't want our newfound connection on the lake already souring.
We don't know.
We were here on our own. Hopefully they're all right, though. Jerry shot a look back at Rob as if to tell him not to say anything.
Another reason we wouldn't want to rush off into a war to make it back to them,
he still whispered under his breath.
Well, we're not leaving for a good bit anyway, so the offer will always be on the table. And y'all are welcome any time to come over here, like I said. I don't know what kind of guns y'all have, but we have a few here if you need to protect yourself.
Mr. Hill continued talking, remaining seemingly calm. We have enough back at our cabin. Thank you, though, Jerry politely replied.
All this talk about all these crazy theories has been interesting for damn sure. You kids already seem to be getting into the beer, so I'll let y'all be and head upstairs. One of my shotguns needs cleaning, and I gotta finish that up. Also, I don't want to be that damn dad that keeps intruding on teenagers trying to have fun. I was one myself once, a long time ago. Mr. Hill chuckled a little before continuing. You can have some of the liquor too if you want. The cabinet's just below the sink. Just don't take any of the high-end stuff. That's all mine.
We aren't teenagers, Rob mumbled under his breath again, this time a little louder. Mr. Hill ignored him and got up to walk up the stairs, taking his own glass of whiskey with him. Within a few moments, we were all back to talking, and now the conversation had turned more casual. We learned that Mr. Hill was high up in auto parts, and hadn't made a lot of money until a recent promotion and a good era for the company. Rick himself was only a high school junior still, which surprised most of us. We asked how his dad let him drink around him, and he said that his dad was just cool like that. His brother Andrew was a lot older, however, in his early 20s like us. But he wasn't a college student, and instead had dropped out of high school as a senior to work for his dad, which he was doing now. Rick consistently bragged about he would finish high school just to prove to Andrew that he was smarter. Compared to his brother, Andrew was a lot more quiet and soft-spoken. Their mother was divorced and lived in Savannah. They said they didn't know her well, as it happened shortly after they were born, and didn't like her much anyway. As Rob and I told them more and more crazy college and fraternity stories, Rick insisted that he wanted to go to college even more now. He asked about joining our fraternity, to which Rob told him we would probably be gone by the time he got to UGA, so it wouldn't be up to us to help him out. We eventually drank more and more and broke into the liquor cabinet. Soon, I started feeling the alcohol really hit me. I had a high tolerance from all the drinking I've done, so it took me a while. The only one who didn't really drink was Olivia, who stayed even quieter than Andrew, and away from us mostly. Jerry began requesting music, and Rick walked us over to his sound system by his TV. Apparently the house was decorated with speakers on the outside and inside. It was a traditional CD player, which I hadn't seen in a while outside of a car, and above it was a shelf lined with CD cases. Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Metallica, Black Sabbath, Rolling Stones, damn! Y'all got some good taste in music, Rob said excitedly as he ran his fingers across them. Yeah, that stuff's alright to me. I'm more of a country guy myself, Rick walked up to him. Of course you are. Can we play one of these, though? This is the longest I've ever gone without jamming out to some tunes, and it's killing me. Go ahead. Maybe we'll attract anyone else still in the lake. Rob pulled out a Metallica CD and put it in the system. A few seconds later, Fade to Black was playing loudly. I was a big fan of classic rock and hair metal, too, and I had Rob to thank for getting me into all of it. With the music now going, Rob then turned his attention to an acoustic guitar that was sitting on a stand in the room. Which one of y'all can play? He asked as he did a little hop over to it and picked it up. For a brief moment, Rick almost seemed to panic, and his brother stepped in and started talking. None of us can. But my dad plans on learning. He just bought it right before everything bad happened. What a waste of a good guitar. This thing's hella nice. Yeah, well, maybe playing the guitar is a waste of time. I spend my spare time doing something useful, like training for baseball or smoking darts. Rick spoke loudly to Rob. Baseball's a boring sport, but I gotta agree with you on the smoking darts part. Rob smiled at him, but I could hear a hint of aggression in his voice. I was worried he would do something stupid. But that small drama, the music, and the alcohol reminded me of the lifestyle we were living just a few weeks ago. Most of the time back home, I would take harder stuff when I got drunk, and suddenly the urge was hitting me again. I approached Rick and asked, Hey, you wouldn't happen to have anything harder than alcohol or nicotine, would you? What, like meth or some shit? He chuckled. You know, like blow. Cocaine? What the hell? Suddenly I felt like an idiot for asking a rural Georgia high schooler for that. Getting into that stuff was unheard of down here, and I imagined it happened only in a Southern California school. Okay, what about just like weed? Weed's for sore boy liberals, but I'll give you another cig or some dip. Nicotine wouldn't satisfy as much as a stimulant, but it was better than nothing. I thought about asking his older brother, but just decided to go with a cigarette. After he gave it to me, I walked out to the porch to smoke it, and for a brief moment, I forgot about her situation, until Olivia approached me as I came back inside. Chris, she simply uttered. Oh, I'm surprised you even want to talk to me, I snapped. He'll be an asshole again, this is serious. I'm not the one being mean here. Do you really care that much about me being friends with you? Are you that desperate for other people's approval? I looked off towards the now dark night in the window, knowing that she was right. The happiness I had felt from the alcohol now turned into a deep-seated pain. "No, I'm not," I still said, not willing to concede the argument. "Look, I just want to talk about what you said at the dinner table. Did you mean it? Do you really think we're in some sort of experiment right now?" she asked. "Honestly, yeah. I just don't see any other possibility for what's happening. Aliens? Demons? An East Coast invasion. That all sounds impossible. And that Alabama experiment is the only time the government has done this before. Have you heard of MK Ultra?" "The name sounds familiar." "Well, it's in Stranger Things. Basically, in the Cold War, the CIA conducted a ton of illegal experiments on people with LSD and other drugs. I don't think they were making telekinetic kinds, but they were trying out mind control shit for sure," I explained. "Actually? Or is that just another conspiracy?" she replied. "This is real. It's everything on the internet or books to read about." "So they're watching us. What do you think would happen if we tried to leave?" I understood what she was asking about before she even got there. "You want to know what they would have done to Sal?" "Yeah." "I don't know, Olivia. He left early, so maybe they just let him go, but he'd still be a liability no matter what." I could see the panic set on her face. "Are you saying they could have killed him?" "Do you want me to sugarcoat it? Or do you want the realistic answer?" "No! There's no way our own leaders would ever let that happen!" she shouted. I could see tears welling up in her eyes.
"What's going on over here?"
Rick stumbled over, nearly falling over one of the chairs. I could tell he was drunker than any of us, but I couldn't blame a high schooler for not being able to hold his alcohol. The high school parties were shit shows of people passing out quickly and puking everywhere. "Not much, just talking more theories," I said as he walked up. He ignored me and turned his attention to Olivia.
"You know, you're pretty hot."
He grabbed her arm. She tried to yank it away, but he squeezed harder. "Let go of me!" she yelled at him. I quickly contemplated what to do, but Rob acted first, coming up and grabbing him from behind. With his strength, he easily flung him back.
"Get off her, you fucking creep!"
he spat in his face.
"Fuck you, cockblock!"
Rick yelled back. I saw Andrew walk over and brace for the worst, but something else drew my attention. Over the music I heard a sort of booming sound coming from outside. Something that sounded like thunder. Almost.
"Stop!"
I yelled loudly. Everyone looked at me. "Did y'all hear that?" I asked.
"Hear what?"
Rob asked. "Turn the music off." I pointed at Jerry, who was the closest to the speaker. He turned around and smashed the pause button. Suddenly, booming noise was much louder. "Is that thunder?" Jerry then asked. "I don't know. Let's go see," I replied, and walked out into the porch. A swarm of mayflies and moths circled around the porch lights, but I hardly paid attention to that. If the noise was thunder, it was distant, because I heard the crickets, frogs, and other noises louder as soon as we stepped onto the porch. Like every night before, the sky was clear, but it didn't take long for us to discover where the noise was coming from. Off in the distance, towards the horizon on the north, was a constant series of flashing white lights in the sky. They weren't small either, and lit up that entire section of the sky.
"What the hell is going on over there?"
Rob muttered.
"Go get Dad."
Andrew turned back to his brother. Rick turned around and ran back into the house without saying a word. A few seconds later, he came sprinting back out with his dad, who was armed with a double-barreled shotgun.
"How long has this been going on?"
Mr. Hill asked us as he studied it. "We just noticed," I replied to him.
"That's fighting going on. Those are explosions, and judging by the direction, that's gotta be in Statesboro."
"Fighting? Like a military battle?" Jerry asked him with a concerned look on his face.
"Yeah. Go get all the guns, sons."
Mr. Hill directed Andrew and Rick, who ran back inside.
"You don't think it would come over to here, do you?"
Jerry asked him.
"If they're that close, then it's a high probability we need to get ready to fight."
"Or we could hide and avoid it. Living sounds like a good option." Olivia trembled. Another noise began to overtake the night, one that I recognized to be the sound of a loud plane engine. Assuming it would be another military jet, I began to scan the skies for it, and that's when I noticed something headed in our direction, something that looked like an orange ball of fire. "You see that?" I tugged Rob's sleeve and I pointed up at it. "The hell?" he replied. The orange object began to fall closer, and the noise turned into a loud shriek, and as the object got closer, I saw that it wasn't a meteor, but rather A large cargo plane on fire. One that was falling toward us. "That's a plane!" I yelled. "Oh my God," Olivia uttered, panicking. I could barely hear her anymore. "Do you have a tornado shelter or basement?" Jerry turned towards Mr. Hill, who was watching it too. I don't think it's going to hit us, but we have a basement," he yelled back. The house began to shake, and I tried to consider what to do. "Come on!" Jerry ran inside with Olivia, but Rob, Mr. Hill, and I continued to watch. I began to cover my ears for the fear of damaging my hearing. The plane was veering off towards the right and away from the lake house. "I think he's right," I yelled back to Rob.
"I want to see where it lands,"
Mr. Hill yelled.
"What's happening?"
Rick ran out to the porch, right as I watched the plane split in half. The tail section quickly dove down, and I watched it smack the water right next to Goat Island. The front end of the plane dived down too, and I watched as it went behind the tree line into the direction of our own cabin. There was a loud boom, and the screeching came to a stop. The plane had fully crash landed.